Well, guys, I was sitting here thinking back, actually, way back, when I was 4 years old, actually. And I remember when my dad actually shot a guy, and I was there to see it all. I don't know what happened, but I know that he was friends with my dad at one time. They would drink together and hang out together. And for some reason, they had gotten into an argument and they were feuding, right? So one night, it was dark, I remember. I can't remember exactly what time that it was, but I know it was nighttime. And the guy passed by our house, and where we lived at, it was a dead end. It went down to the creek, and then that was the end of the road, so you had to come back, right? So the guy that my dad was feuding with came down, and he had, firecrackers, and he had lit those and threw those out in the yard. And he went on down the road about probably half a mile, and then he had to come back up. And that was his mistake. He should have done it when he came back up, actually. But he went down the road and went to the dead end, and he had to turn around and come back up. And he was driving an old Jeep that had the canvas type top on it, right? So he comes by, throws the firecrackers out, bang, 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 they go off, right? And he goes down to the end of the road to the creek and has to come around, has to turn around and come back up and past the house. Well, when he did, my dad was waiting outside with a single shot break open shotgun. And he had a slug in that shotgun, 12 gauge slug. Well, the guy comes back up and the guy passes the house. Well, my dad takes a bead on the back of that truck and estimates where the guy's at driving the truck. And he aims for, his back between his shoulders. He's going to shoot him through the Jeep, through the canvas top, in through his back. And his plan was to kill that guy when he came up the road. And the guy comes back up the road, and boom, 12 gauge goes off. And the guy takes off as fast as he can go. And then my dad said that I was in the house actually at this time, but the guy stopped. I mean, he was bleeding out, and he went up a little bit after that slug hit, and the slug actually didn't get him in between the shoulders or in the back where my dad was aiming at. It actually hit him in the hip and took his hip off. I mean, it made a mess out of his hip, as far as I was told. And the guy went up the road just a little bit, just a few yards before he collapsed. And there was someone else in the vehicle, and they drugged that guy over, and they got in the driver's side of the vehicle, and they took off in the Jeep and went up the road to get away from the shooting because my dad had put that 12 gauge slug through that guy's hip. And I remember the state police, Kentucky State Police, coming down there. And this would have been about 1974, 1978, because I was born in 1972 and I was 4 years old, maybe about 5 years old. And the state police came down there. And it was winter time because we had a wood stove. And I don't remember any snow, but I remember the wood stove. And the state police, the two officers, came down there, and I'm not sure who called the police. I'm not sure about that, but they came down to the house and they stood around that wood stove, getting warm, talking, getting the report done, and they didn't even take my dad to jail. My dad said that the guy had passed by and had shot a handgun at the house. That's what my dad told. But it wasn't. It was actually firecrackers, from what I remember being told and what I remember seeing and hearing during that time. And they didn't take him to jail. Nowadays, he would have been in jail because you can't shoot someone in a vehicle going the opposite direction in the back with a 12 gauge slug without it being attempted murder. But he was lucky. My dad was actually pretty lucky because he did a lot of things in his life, and Never had to spend a whole lot of time in jail. He would spend a few days for like drunken driving and things like that. But as far as spending any time in prison, he never did. So he was actually pretty lucky. But he shot that guy in the back. He tried to shoot him between the shoulders through that vehicle top. He tried to kill the guy. And that slug, the vehicle was moving, it was nighttime. So it was actually a pretty good shot, actually, if you consider that it was nighttime. The vehicle was moving, and my dad had a single shot, break open 12 gauge shotgun with a slug in it. And just had that bead front sight. And he still yet managed to hit the guy through the vehicle. But he hit him in his hip and blew his hip off. And the guy, the rest of his life, he would walk around dragging his leg, behind him, kind of because he didn't have no mobility with his leg. It was all messed up. But they wrote the report up, state police did, and it was supposed to go, to court. My dad shows up to court, and when he shows up to court, the judge says, "Why are you here? There's no record or anything being ever filed." So the county executive at the time, who was like a county mayor, he made it disappear. From what I understand, he knew the family, he liked the family, my family, and he actually made that disappear. And so there's no charges, ever filed because the case just magically disappeared. So my dad was extremely lucky. With that guy that my dad was feuding with, he was never the same after that. I mean, he got his, I think it was his left hip and butt cheek hit with a 12 gauge slug, and half of his ass taken off. I mean, it was a mess from what I heard. And I remember the firecrackers. I remember my mom getting me because they thought it was gunfire at the time, actually. My mom got me and put me to the floor and covered me up because with her body to protect me. And like I said, I was 4 years old because they thought it was gunfire. The guy goes down the road and has to come back up. And when he comes back up, my dad is out there waiting with that 12 gauge shotgun with that slug in it. And as the guy drives up the road, my dad takes aim at night to try to, put that shot through that Jeep right between that guy's shoulders. He tried his best to take that guy and kill that guy. But with the movement, nighttime, the bead front sight slug, he shot low and hit the guy in I think it was his left hip, and took half of his ass off. The guy got shot in the ass by a 12 gauge slug. So he didn't ever, as far as I know, ever pass by and throw out, any fireworks, any firecrackers in the middle of the night up in the morning to try to frighten someone. He learned his lesson very quickly. But my dad was extremely lucky, and I remember being horrified actually at 4 years old. My mom taking me and putting me in the floor and putting her body on top of me to cover me up to protect me from gunshots because that's what they thought that it was. And I remember hearing that shotgun go off. I remember all the commotion. I remember the police being there around that wood stove. It was very, very interesting. Anyways, I thought I'd share this story. I was sitting here thinking, I sat here sometimes and I'm thinking, what stories could I share? Things that's happened in my life with, my subscribers on my YouTube channel. And I was thinking about this one a minute ago, and I said, that is a pretty good story, pretty unique story that I'm sure that a lot of people probably couldn't relate to because how many of you all have had something like that happen? Where your dad actually shot someone through the back and got by with it. I mean, really. Anyways, guys, I'm going to think about it in the comments below. I can tell this now because my dad's dead. He passed away about 6 years ago on Christmas Day, so he can't be charged, can't be convicted now, so I can tell these stories of what happened way back then. Because now, what are they going to do? Go find his ashes and take them, put them in prison? I mean, really? So I can tell these stories of what happened in my childhood and what made me, what I am today. Things that happen in your childhood growing up makes you who you are. And these stories actually, and your stories also, make you who you are. It molds your personality, it molds your thought processes, and it is the accumulation of what we are right now. If you like the story, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully.